Hi everybody, woohoo! Welcome back to Hex Token channel. Hope you guys are having a blast out there. Look at this chart, folks. Look at the chart. It's going insane in the membrane, and this is what we love about Hex, right? These pumpamentals and looking pretty epic. So let me just check the audio's up and running. Looks pretty good to me. So nice. Get into the chat, folks. Say hello. We love a vibrant chat as well. Let's check out the Hex price. It is going for a tier. And of course, going on track. We're going to do all the overlays, have a look at the TA and the fundamentals. We're also going to check out the updated timeline, of course, which I posted in the daily vid today, updated based on Richard's latest information. And of course, we're going to look at some of the X upsides for PulseSwap, PulseChain, some of the upward X's that we might be able to get. Also, some of the strategies as well around PulseSwap and PulseChain. So pretty cool. Hope you guys can enjoy it, folks. Just get into the chat and let's go for gold as well. So here we are, folks. Let me just jump back here and pick up this price chat here. So looking pretty good at the moment. This is the daily chart, and we're on version 3 USD on a Uniswap. And let's have a look here. So already up in 5 days, up 75%, which is pretty mad gains. And so congratulations if you got down the bottom there. I was talking about it in my videos a couple of days ago that, you know, around that 13 cents seemed like a pretty good place to be. And of course, did get down into the 12s as well. So if you picked up some of them, you'll be pretty happy. Anywhere on the way up there would have been pretty good. I did notice in Trayvon video, he said that he got in around about 30.9 cents. So definitely people that have been monitoring this Hex price in the downtrend definitely been able to pick up some stuff there. But as I say, I think the fundamentals are pretty important at the moment. And so that's where we're heading at the moment. So yesterday, when we did the live stream, we were in this candle here on the 14th, and it was looking pretty good. And man, we smashed it up another green candle, starting to look like these green candles over here, which is pretty exciting to see that as well. Don't forget, so if you haven't subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, of course, and share if you can. And of course, if you're watching this live stream afterwards, leave some comments in the chat. I do respond to them all. And it's exciting times to be a Hexkin, a Pulsekin, and of course, was it a PulseSwapsican? I think is the right word, or whatever the final name is. It's going to be pretty cool. There is the Trifecta of greatness from Richard Hart, of course, and it's going to be pretty exciting. We're also going to check out Richard Hart's tweets as well. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun too. So let's get straight into it, folks. Look at that. We're currently sitting at the 200-day rolling average or moving average there. That's the yellow line, 200-day, and we are sitting at it right now. So that's pretty exciting to see that. Very cool. And of course, we broke the support. So let's get the old highlights and bam, let's add in all the chart details. We have really done pretty well. Now, yesterday I said that we would pretty much need to get into this spot here, and this is exactly where we are, and it's very bullish indeed. So looking good there. And that's where we want to be, and we've hit the 200-day as well. We've only got a few days, so let's say that we do have the sacrifice launch on. It's going to launch for the end of the year, but if it's 27th, then we've only got a couple of days left, and each day is ticking away as well. And of course, for a lot of people that missed out on the PulseChain sacrifice, this is the best way of getting into PulseSwap and also PulseChain as well. So that's one of the strategies you might think about. Obviously, you've got to get your tokens ready to sacrifice for PulseSwap if you want to get the PulseSwap upside. And some people are calling that the PulseSwap will be better in the short term and the PulseChain price better in the medium long term. So that's some people's views. You've got to make a decision around that, of course, and you've got to do your own investment due diligence. Everything on this site, of course, is an infotainment that is providing info and entertainment where we check out the excitement of Hex and PulseChain. So pretty nice. So we've got about 10 and 11 days until the 27th. That seems like a pretty good day just after Boxing Day to launch, but it will definitely be before the end of the year 31st, so a couple of days after that. So nice. So basically that's a big fundamental wall, and the price is going to smash up against that, and that's exactly what we're seeing at the moment. So here was the green price prediction for the week. As you can see, that's just continue to go up. We broke this orange resistance. We also broke the purple resistance. This was the big one. This was the big downtrend one. And of course, you can actually take higher resistances using the top of the price chart and make them even go further with the more shallow steeps there, shallow angles there. But this was the main one here that we had to break, and we've broken that, and we're also back into the long-term linear uptrend as well. This dashed line that keeps going up. So if you actually scroll that up, we're back in on top of that. So that's pretty cool as well. So we've got above the support, above that support. And of course, we're up at the 200-day moving average, so looking really strong. And of course, we're on 4 days of green. Maybe you could even include that first day of 5, but we've got a red day in the middle, and so that's looking pretty good too. So nice. We got this wall, and then of course, PulseChain mainnet. I've actually shifted that out to the 15th, just give the time zone for PulseSwap that Richard's indicated that it would be pretty similar to PulseChain. So I hope that it's actually going to be shorter than 19 days. I hope that it's going to be, maybe 14 days or 10 days. That'd be much better in my view. Obviously, you're going to get most of the sacrifice up front anyway in the first couple of days. So maybe first 5 days, depending on how you structure the gamification. So we'll wait and see what Richard says about that for sure. New things in the house to the moon. Hey, good to see you. A new thing. Great to see that you could make it this time. And Hex Existentialist. Oh, man, that's a big word. Existentialist. How I caught you live. Yeah. Oh, nice to see you, D. This thing I'll use your name, D. The last one is so epically awesome. It's going to take me a little while to get my head around that one. But welcome, D, in the house. So pretty nice to see that. I love that name. Look at that, folks. That's pretty cool. All right, so here we are, folks. This is where we are in a beautiful Goldilocks zone here. And man, another day of green, another day. We're going to be moving back up here. Our next resistance line is this 27-28 cent mark. You can see that quite clearly in the chart. To get there, that's that dash purple line. That's where we want to head to as we head towards the actual sacrifice start. So like I say, we've got probably between 10 and 14 days, something like that, to make that happen. The chart started off pretty strong already. We have had a big increase in volumes today. See the big volume candle there? This is just one pool. This is almost $80 million just in the V3 pool for the USDC. Doesn't include the other pools, right? The 2 ETH pools and the V2. So pretty exciting to see that big volume jump there as well. Let's go and check out the old the technicals as well. We're going to look at the CCI. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Yeah! The commodity index is looking good. Remember yesterday it was down here. It was down here yesterday, and I think it was just above positive. And now look at it, it's rocketed up on the daily to 154. Yeah, that's how we want to roll. And of course, we want to see something like this. We want to see something like this with the old fundamentals on the CCI, the commodities index, and that's looking really good. So very nice. Let's have a look at the MACD, and we're going to look at the MACD as well. And MACD is looking strong. Look at that blue buy line above the signal line, which is the yellow line, and the volume is starting to go positive. Very, very cool. We're not even in positive territory yet for the blue signal line, so we've got a lot of room to move there. And of course, we would love it to get something like this as well. So we'll be looking out for that. But that's looking pretty cool for the moving average there. Let's check out the RSI. Obviously, RSI looking good too. Woo-hoo-hoo! I just love this, man. It's so exciting to see all the metrics going up. Of course, we're above 50, and that's the key line. And of course, heading up. We've got plenty of room to go, folks. We could, like previously, we've been up to 90, and we're currently sitting at 62 on the daily for the RSI. So very, very cool. And let's have a look. Oh, let me go back in there. Got out of there accidentally. Let me just scroll out of there, and let's have a look at the EFI. EFI has started to pop up as well, above zero, and up at what's that? About 11,000. Very, very cool. So lots of room to move there too, and nice to see that smack above there as well. And what else we got here? We've got the so these are the two volume ones, the EFI and the volume oscillator, and the volume oscillator also turned up there to zero. Yeah, so plenty of room to move there too. Very nice. And finally, let's have a look at the DMI. And yes, the buyers are outdoing the sellers. So the orange sellers and the buyers are moving up. Woohoo! So everything looking sweet as, and I think the price chart itself says it pretty nicely. That the price is obviously pretty clearly moving up, but all the indicators are supportive as well. A bit of a tongue twister. Keep up the great work, man. Hey, thanks, D. I will do. And it is definitely a tongue twister, that's for sure. And we've got Hex Hodl in the house. Hey, all. Hey, good to see Hex Hodler. Yeah, keep hodling, man, because that price is looking super good. Yeah, he needs more viewers, says Hex Hodl. Yeah, I think we had first live stream was yesterday. Just depends on the time of day we did it. I did it probably 4 or 5 hours earlier, and we probably had about 68 people, I think, watching the first live stream ever on this channel. And of course, now we're up to about 20, so it's pretty good to see everybody in the house. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, hit the bell, of course. We're going to have party time here as well. I love celebrating stuff. I love the journey. I love the end game. I love the celebration. It really is cool. Mark Carnito is in the house. Woohoo! And we've got Trifecta in there too. Here we go. It's looking pretty awesome there, Trifecta. And Hex Turbo says, great TA. I appreciate that, Hex Turbo. Very cool. And Hex Hodl says 100% staked is better than any hodl. That's right. So not only you get the price gains, but you get the stake gains. And that's what's all Hex is all about, the pumpamentals there. And of course, a PulseChain is going to supercharge that with super fast and super cheap fees. And of course, those liquidity pools, man. Oh my gosh. I think people are just starting to get their heads around the pumpamentals of that with the bot maker that's going to make that, of course. You've got some ratio. People are moving different ratios around, but say a million to 1 for Ethereum. It's got to adjust all that, hit the liquidity pools, and it will, pretty much mitigate people withdrawing pool funds when PulseChain launches, and going to give some really good pricing to the PulseChain when it starts up. It's going to be mad. The biggest yield farming in history, as well as the biggest airdrop in history. The mad gains are just off the chart. I don't think the market's just got to wake up for that. We're going to watch out for one of Richard's tweets that particularly backs up that comment as well. Pretty awesome. And we got Nation in the house. Kiora, bro, still a noob, but great content. Hey, Kiora, good to see you, Nisian. And yeah, keep learning. That's the thing. It's learn as much as you can. And also get out there and also promote your own investment. That's the other good thing. Once you get a bit more confidence, get out there, spread the word, because adoption is the key as well. So adoption is a big part as well. Hey, we've got real billionaire boys in the house. Long live the Hex gods. Rest of these coins are trash. And I think over time, people are going to realize that, especially if we enter into a bear market at some stage, they'll definitely see that the Hex stand out strong amongst that for sure. NG's in the house. Hi, brother. Great stream. Hey, NG, good to see you in the chat there. Very, very cool. And great to see that. I wonder if SKB is going to be in the house, because SKB is the first Hex Token channel member. So he was in there yesterday. So great to see. I hope the SKB comes back in there. Very cool. What else? Got Real Billionaire says, brother, Hex Token, your voice reminds me of a guy who does the horse racing here. Hey, that's pretty funny. I like that. Love you, brother, from Chicago. I love Chicago. And Team Richard Hart, hashtag Team Richard Hart. That's right. So that's actually one of the Hex Token members. Ships is the Hex, what's that? Richard Hart team is Richard Hart Club, actually, is the one of the 3 different memberships. We've got Hexkins, PulseXens, and Richard Hart Club. So check the join button and feel free to support this channel as we move ahead. D says, how good is it to be a Hexan? It's madly good. It's so awesome. I mean, honestly, it really does change lives. And the way that the tokenomics is set up, I've seen some analysis out there by certain people that don't actually do their full analysis. They don't actually understand what they're looking at, particularly around the shares and the T-shares and the share rate. They really don't cover that very well. And I think they struggle to understand the inflation side of things as well. With deferred inflation and being minted well into the future. So I think there's a lot of struggles on that. The other side, of course, is that, Hex is growing pretty strongly. And of course, PulseChain is going to be a whole nother beast. It's going to take the market by storm. It really is, as we say, a bit of a vampire attack on Ethereum. It's also going to support Ethereum, but it's really going to cause a lot of users to move over. It's a layer 1 chain, remember. It's basically the same code with some particular upgrades around staking with validators. It's going to be really is a big game changer. A lot of projects also that were dead or stuck on Ethereum will be able to be revived on PulseChain. Is really going to be pretty cool. And of course, I still think that Hex is going to be the flagship on both chains, ETH and PulseChain. Obviously, PulseChain will probably have a premium that may reach conversion, so it may have a premium for a short period of time because of cheaper, faster fees. But it could reach conversion. Conversion. If am I saying the right word there? I'm not quite sure, but it could reach. I'm trying to say the right word, but hopefully it is. It could reach conversion as parity as big whales move into the ETH chain and buy Hex up. So we're going to watch that very carefully because with the pools connected, you might see some sort of a price parity there is what I'm trying to say there. So very cool. All right, new thing says we are lucky guys. The 3 gem holds, absolutely. It is the trifecta, the super trifecta, and it's going to take the world by storm. I don't know if you remember back a while ago, Richard Hart said, you know, he wanted Pulse, EHEX, and PHEX to be number 1, 2, and 3, and he also wants to be known for creating the greatest crypto assets pretty much in the history. He's going to leave his mark, and of course, that could take 3 to 5 years for that to actually land, but I think that his profile is already lifted after 2 years. I think that his profile is already lifted. There's far less, you know, soothsayers out there, whatever you call them, critics as well, and a lot more people starting to recognize all the successes that he has done. So pretty big shout out for Richard Hart there. Very cool. All right, so price looking at 21.2 cents. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Yeah, I mean, look at that. Looks fantastic. Now, as I said on the hourly that we probably have a little bit of profit taking, a little bit of red candles there, so don't worry too much about that. Let's go to the hourly. Actually, let's get rid of the we'll get rid of the lines and we'll go to the hourly chart. And we'll see some of the red candles. It's actually pretty healthy. So we had a nice little pullback here and into here, and we went down to what's that, 18 cents. Let me pull up the ruler there. So we had a pretty good run all the way up there, as I say, 42, 43%. That was up to 21, and then of course then we had a pullback, which is pretty healthy, and came down to here, a short-lived 12%. Down to about 18.6 cents, so another chance to pick up some bags, and here we are on another tier as well, and we've got some decent volume sitting in there as well, so looking good. And we've got to really break this. Obviously 24 cents and 28 cents are my next 2 markers there, so we're going to watch that as well. Let's go back to the daily there as well. Hex Hodl says also PulseSwap, absolutely PulseSwap. We're going to talk about that a lot more later. Love a TGAT green line, yeah, absolutely, and very, very nice. Going to make sure I update that. But here we are. So 21.1 cents. Man, what a dream! Yesterday's live stream was great because we had the big price pump mental. I think we were up around the 18, 17, 18 cent mark, and now again today the live stream. We've got the 21. It's always lovely doing some nice price rises as well. Perfect time. So very cool. That is what's going on there. Let's jump over to the timeline. And of course, we have our airplane is flying. Remember the airplane was down here, and now the airplane is up here. So we are definitely on takeoff. We're not on takeoff. We're in flight. We're in flight. I don't know. We may be going near Chicago. We could be near Chicago. Who knows? But it's going up and up and up. Very cool. And of course, here's the timeline. We've got PulseChain Testnet 2.0 in play, and that's going really nice. There are now something like eight validators. We start off with 3. Remember the first day. And of course, if you haven't checked out the video on PulseChain Testnet, how to stake with validators, check that out on this channel. That's I think I did that video a couple of days ago, and of course we are on that. But start off with 3 validators. Now we've got about 8 validators. I do know that there's going to be a couple more validators coming on. People have to contact the dev team to get the 500,000 test pulse coins to do that. But we definitely jumped from 3 to 8. Some of them even had profit sharing up at 99%, which is pretty hilarious because the first couple were all at 50%, and some of them even doing 99% profit sharing for the obviously getting their pulse rewards from validating the blocks and transactions. So that was pretty hilarious. So already looking good. It's looking pretty smooth. Check out the daily vid, of course, if you want to see the actual PulseChain stuff that's been working pretty well. All right, so there we are. That's what we've got at the moment. Testnet running at the moment. The price is ramping up, obviously. We've got the time frame in orange here. Was the original time frame from Richard about PulseChain mainnet. Now I have moved this is sitting here. I've moved that out to here now onto the 15th. Excuse me, on the 15th there. About here, and of course PulseSwap with it. So because Richard gave us details that the PulseSwap would be similar similar to the PulseChain sacrifice. So that would mean about 19 days, but I think it's going to be shorter. I hope it is shorter. 10, 14 days, something like that would be really cool, and that would be nice. So very cool. Even 7 days, even 7 days would be good. But 10 or 14, that's fine. So here is the sacrifice there in this red arrow here. That would be the sacrifice period. I've got it starting particularly as early as 23rd. That was Richard's guidance of 2 or 3 weeks, and so that's how that time frame sets up. But of course, we've got the tweet, and that's where this tweet is kind of filling out that tweet at the moment. And then, of course, you'd need at least a day or two probably to do the distribution file, reconcile it potentially, and then have that up ready for PulseChain mainnet. So I guess the earliest time frame now, I do think, is about the 15th, the middle of January now for the launch, given the PulseSwap, if it is anything close to the PulseChain sacrifice period. So we'll take that into account. We will adjust this as we get information, and that's where we're at the moment. So pretty cool. A New Year's launch would be pretty fab, though. I think we can all agree on that. Hex Hodl says from submarine to airplane to spaceship. Yeah, I've got to change that to a spaceship. I think I might do that when we get, maybe when we break this price, 28 cents, I might change that to a spaceship. How about that? That sounds like a good one. And D says PSA 56 Gwei. Yeah, Pulse 56 Gwei. Oh, cool. All right. So that's where we're at the moment. Very cool. Let's jump over to Richard Hart's Twitter there. As well. So the other thing I was going to talk about is what's coming up. What in the PulseChain launch, what they're going to have. Going to have go.hex working. Obviously, Uniswap front end, which is done by a separate team. PulseSwap, of course, and a separate team, and the bridge, which I think is done by Ruth, the dev, and a couple others there. So we're expecting to have that up and running. Very cool. The bridge itself probably have at least a couple of like stable coins, Hex, stuff like that in their Pulse. Expecting that those very minimum things at the least to be on the bridge. And then, of course, PulseSwap is going to be a huge deal with the pretty much the initial offering going on here between, let's say, for argument's sake, the 27th through to the 14th or 15th, something like that. So pretty cool. And then a Uniswap front end, of course, is pretty easy. That's but the team all set up. That's all done. So that's our minimum viable product for release, and that's going to be gradually tested on the PulseChain as well. So PulseChain testnet 2.0, and then hopefully all ready by the time we go for mainnet. The other thing, of course, we're waiting for the block announcement. Hopefully we'll get a day or two announcement before the block so that you can qualify for the biggest airdrop in history, and to make sure that you've got your assets sitting in the MetaMask on the blockchain. That you can have get copied for the biggest airdrop. So that's coming up too. We look forward to that from Richard as well. Very cool. All right, so that's some good stuff there, folks. Get into the chat. Love a lively chat for sure. It was a lot of fun. So here, let's go check out Richard's tweets at the moment. So this is the one that I really love. That's why I've started on this tweet. And of course, this is on the 14th of December. I don't think Ethereum or cryptocurrency in general understands PulseChain.com is going to change everything. And of course, I think that's pretty FOMO for myself. It's going to blow everyone's minds. I love that. It really is so exciting. I've read this like 4 or 5 times. I just really love this one. PulseSwap sacrifice phase should be launched before the end of the year. So very cool. I have nothing to do with PulsePad, PulseSwap, which will have a different name, I think. Will have a sacrifice phase nearly the same as PulseChain did. And like I said, I do hope it's going to be shorter in that case. So whether it has exactly the same, first 5 days and 10,000 points for $1, and then a ramp up of 1.05 during the remaining 11 days. It's a total of 16 days with a volume multiplier on top, and then a 1.75 flat for the day 16, 17, 18. 17, 18, 19. That would be, we'll see whether that structure is still in place or whether he simplifies that. And so I'm hoping it's going to be shorter and simplified compared to that. So we'll see what happens there. Let me know in the chat what you think about that. Very cool. D Hex is up in house. What's up, everyone? Hexkins. Hey, the price is up. That's what's up. I love it. All right. So AE says after we break 52 cents all high, it will fly to $1 within a couple of days. I think so too. I'm very confident about 75 cents, and I think $1 is definitely in play for that as well. AE. That's in the short term, and of course I have higher prices in for the early year now. Obviously they get adjusted as we get information. Price expectations get adjusted as well. So still think that $1.80 plus is in play for the early part of next year. Very cool. And that may be the sum total of the splits of PX EHEX. So we'll watch that. It's going to be pretty pumpamental, that's for sure. And the upward price for next year is probably anywhere from $10 to $17 by the end of next year. Is that's kind of my current thinking at the moment at the end. And that's all based on all the big whales coming in that we're expecting as well. So we know quite a few of those are already in play, and quite a few are coming in So certainly grabbing a lot of attention as well, especially when the market is all red, and you know, you've got Hex, and it looks like we've got good old Dogecoin there trying to you know, follow our was it follow our trail or something like that. So Dogecoin was pretty good today. That was pretty hilarious. All right, so you can see the red, sea of red, but of course Hex is in the green there. Pretty nice. That was coming out. So very nice. So Richard's had quite a few tweets in here. V2 test is forked with the same block as V1, 13,224,745. So obviously everyone will be waiting for the block there as well for the biggest airdrop in history. So you want to make sure you're ready for that. I love this. If you haven't seen this video with Real Kinetics, this really is cool. A lot of pearls in there, particularly around the yield farming. So you should definitely check that out. And Hex.com is murdering Bitcoin and Ethereum ROI since launch. 2 years of flawless operation. Neither Bitcoin or ETH had such a track record of security their first 2 years. So that's pretty neat as well. So nice. And don't forget to check out, look into Hex.com. This is Gerardo, probably one of the 2 top chartists in the PulseChain world. So definitely check that out. My other favorite one is Wave 3. If you haven't seen Wave 3, Wave 3 is pretty good too, and very nice. So there's a little update there also about the PulseChain as well. So if you want to check that out as well. So nice. All right, these charts are unfairly nice to BTC as they're comparing a 2010 BTC with 2014 and 2019 Hex. ETH did 56 recently, BTC only 18, and Hex did thousands of X's. I love it. I love it. Bring it on, Richard. Bring it on. And here's another one. I think this is pretty important. So a lot of you ask about this, and this is Richard's view. I think Hex on Pulse will be more valuable as it will be cheaper to on-ramp people and cheaper to stake in Hex. So this is Richard's view on P-Hex versus E-Hex. And good thing you get one of each if you have one before the fork. And that fork, we want to know what that block's going to be. So you're going to make sure that you're ready for that as well. And yeah, so that's Richard's thing. I do think that potentially after that, though, we could see some conversion, you know, of the 2 prices, particularly the link of the liquidity pool, and with whales buying on EHEX. We'll definitely be watching that pretty closely, and definitely expect the sum of those 2 together to be worth more than when they start off. So going to be looking forward to that. So that was Richard's view. Pretty cool to see his opinion there. He also says, I have no crystal ball, of course, I'm just guessing. So just take that into account as well. I love how he does that. So pretty cool. All right, so that's a lot of the comments there. What else we got going there? There's some pretty cool insights here. Your sacrifice balances aren't credited on this testnet yet, so testnet 2.0. So if some of you do have some issues with your balances, hopefully they'll be corrected when we get the, you know, I guess it will be provisional or final distribution CSV file. We're waiting for that again. You can already see for most people, it's probably pretty close to being correct with the current version at the moment. Very cool. I think that's about it there. Why does Hex.com outperform everything else? T-shares, they are the key. And you hear me in the daily vids, I'm always talking about T-shares. T-shares are fundamental to understanding those in Hex. You understand the fundamentals, particularly over time as the share rate goes up. It means it's more expensive to get T-shares. And of course, those who have got T-shares well into the future that have staked long will be an elite class. So you may start off as a smaller, maybe a smaller fish. You end up being a dolphin or something like that by the time you're finished, because you decided to stake out long, and everyone else's T-shares start burning as time goes over. And of course, you earn all that sweet Hex per T-share. Plus, you're going to earn all the penalties from people that try to 50% unstake. You're going to get a lot of those, particularly in the next probably 3 to 4 years. You will be benefiting from all that. So it's going to be interesting to see that as well. You will lose the money you lost. So jury there. So we've got a few other stuff there. Let me just sweet up here. Interesting that Richard Hart was having Paul Krugman on. He's a left-wing economist. He's a Nobel Prize economist. I don't like any of his economics, but Richard's having him on here too, and I would certainly have him on as well. I think that he's now into junk science now, is my view. So pretty cool. So sweet. I think that was about it. I think we're just about up. Richard's done this little video just now, and so that's worth checking it out. That was 6 hours ago. The best cryptocurrency is the best chance at getting rich. I think we all know that here. The audience is well versed with that. If you're new to cryptocurrency, of course, and you're knocked on the door of Hex, PulseChain, or PulseSwap, you are very lucky, and fortune favors the brave. So welcome for all of you as well. All right, we got D Hexkin says first time on a live. Love the content, bro. This is actually the second time on live. I did a live yesterday, D Hexkin, but it's great to be here. I'm actually really enjoying it. I hope you guys enjoy it too. And Eleanor Reed says VOIFYI, and what else we got here? Brownie says hashtag 5555. That's right. So those are the soldiers, and you're going to find that the people, let's say, I wish I actually had pulled it up. Actually, I don't have that up at the moment, but maybe I'll talk about that more tomorrow in tomorrow's daily vid on the staking there, because I want to cover the Hex staking in quite more detail to show you some of the special stuff. Be careful when you see some videos out there. They're trying to do reviews of the Hex. They make very poor judgments because they're not actually having, they don't actually cover all the components of the Hex tokenomics, and so therefore it's basically wrong, right? So just be careful out there with that one. All right, so here let's go back to the price. It's going up even further. Cheers, everybody. Salute. I always like to celebrate the cool thing. 21.4 cents. We are going up mad. Nice, and nice volumes down here too. This is just on one pair, of course, looking good. We just passed the 200 moving average. Very nice. Let's pull back the old chart details. Look at it right in the middle there. Very cool. We have a price squeeze on here as the price wall. There will be some profit taking. It's just hard to say when that will be, but we've definitely got to try and tackle this 28 cents. If we get over that, of course, it's up and away. Really, it will be up and away. We get past the 28 cents. The next one, of course, will be up here at 32. And of course, once we break 28, we will power over this, I'm sure. And then we can start tackling these all-time high levels between 43 and was it 51 on here, 52. I know some charts do so 56, but we do get bot trading on the bot pairs, so they sort of give a lot of spikes. I try to ignore those in many cases as well. Hi 555 everyone. That's right. I like that traffic. Very cool. So hashtag 5555. Very cool. And looking good there. Look at this price, man. So very cool. Now, obviously, there is actually not that much Hex in the markets in the circulating supply, and that's the key. So if you want to think anything about the key, or Richard is focused on, it is that circulating supply and getting it smaller and smaller and smaller. One way you do that is getting demand, so a lot more retail demand, mass adoption, virality, and of course the big whales, the big fish, the big ones with the big money. Then of course a lot of those are coming into the space. We've got Hex Scale. We got Kiyosaki and all the billionaire friends just dabbling there in a moment, but we could see them opening up in 2022. Another big profound thing, of course, if Hex does get to $1, that opens up the psychology of Hex for a lot of other players, because once things get to $1, it's kind of that acceptable level that bigger money starts coming in, just the way things work. And of course, we've got I guess 3 Arrows are still out there doing stuff. They had some big stakes come out earlier in the year. I think it was March or April. Not sure what they've been doing lately. I haven't checked up on them, but they were definitely doing stuff. We've obviously got Overwatch. We've got quite a few people around Overwatch as well. And obviously the Hex God, the real Hex God whale out there. So there's quite a few players and a lot more than that, especially in the PulseChain. Top 5, top 80. We had probably about 80 people sacrifice over $1 million just on the ETH chain alone. So there's a lot of big players out there now, and that gives a lot of economic energy. So that economic energy with the stakes coming out, we've got 2 more stake candles, the 17th and the 1st of January. And of course, with the supply, circulating supply, then we also got the PulseSwap that would sacrifice a lot more Hex, just like we saw in PulseChain. And of course, that reduces the circulating supply again. So that's the key to focus around that and to get the demand up. And so supply down, demand up, and the price goes beep, the ghost goes up that way. I got to get the right part of the screen, and that's what you're going to get. So pretty cool. There's always going to be some OG sellers. Every time you have a price cycle, you're going to get rid of some of those OG people that want to get out, and of course that distributes the Hex to more new people and more people. So over time, you have less of that impact, and so if eventually the price gets a bit more stable, still have massive pullbacks depending on what whales do. But whales, big whales, typically they got so much money that they only sell a certain proportion at any particular time. So some of the trust, of course, are a little bit different. At the end of the tax year, we're going to have the typical thing by the end of the 31st with the Americans and the North American tax, stuff like that. We may get a bit of selling in at that stage as well. I do see that I think it's the Hex Grayscale is doing a Bitcoin. It's been selling a bit of Bitcoin lately, so take that into account. So we do get a bit of that end of the tax year stuff, and then January can boom up again for a nice little spurt there as well. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see that play out. But at the moment, Hex is just crossed into such bullish territory now, and once we're over this 38, that is 28 cents. It's up and away from there. So very cool momentum on at the moment. And as I say, where the fundamentals are pushing there, we've got the PulseChain sacrifice imminently coming up, potentially within 10 to 11 days there. If my 27th is the right date, it's definitely before the end of the year. So we're looking forward to that. Nice. All right, let's go back in the chat there. Brownie's in the house says, how many Hexans will want to sell their Hex on PulseChain? None of the Hex holders I know will sell up, and up. Yeah, so this is the thing, is that I think a lot of the Hex OGs want to hold their Hex. A lot of them, the ones that are diamond hand Hex OGs, and that means pretty much anyone up to now, pretty much, not just big payday people, not just people that started on the 2nd of December 2019, not those type of Hex OGs, but everybody. Hex is becoming increasingly more valuable. I think people's perceptions are starting to get around that as well, and a lot more people are starting to get their heads around the T-shares and staking and things like that. The other thing, of course, is that I think a lot more of the new people may sacrifice some of the Hex to get the PulseSwap. If they miss PulseChain, they may want to sacrifice that. Obviously, it's a win-win if you're going to do that, obviously. But then you've got a couple of strategies, so we might as well get into that now with Brownies midway into that. Albert says, I wish I was a Hex whale, perhaps with PulseChain. That's the thing, right? So you've got a couple of strategies here. You've got PulseSwap, which you can sacrifice. And, of course, it's pretty much going to be probably the same, close to the same tokens as we had in PulseChain. So I did a video on that, so you can check that out. What all the tokens are, so ETH Chain, Binance Smart Chain, all that sort of stuff. You can sacrifice different tokens, stable coins, popular, anything on the ERC20s, that sort of stuff. Pretty much, and so people can sacrifice that. Obviously, when you sacrifice Hex, it just gets Hex off the market. But the other side of course, as an individual, is you got two different decisions. You got the global decision, is that Hex goes off the market. It's held by the origin account, whatever that is, and of course, it doesn't sell based on past behavior and future behavior. Shouldn't be any difference, because I see really the origin account really, or the Genesis account, as like the Federal Reserve controlling the monetary supply, the returns that we get and stuff like that. So I always see it as well. So that's one thing. And of course, so people can sacrifice any of those tokens for that. You can sacrifice Hex, of course. That's a kind of win for the community because it takes stuff off and it makes less for sellable. Obviously, as an individual though, if you think the Hex is going to go up and you feel more confident about that, then you should hold on to your Hex, sacrifice something else. Or you could sell your other stuff, buy Hex, push the price of the Hex up, and then sacrifice that, and then the US dollar value of your Hex goes up. And that was the rationale for the PulseChain sacrifices, that if one bought Hex, it pushed the price up, and when you sacrifice that in the PulseSwap, you've got a much higher US dollar amount in there as well, and there's less Hex around to be sold further. So you sort of self-fulfilling buying and sacrificing there. Obviously, when let's go back to the chart here, because we're going to go back to, actually, let's use the other chart here. It's got the actual timeline on it. So we had a big run up for the PulseChain sacrifice, and then we got a sold down. Some people blame some of the whales for that. Let me just get rid of that at the moment. I'll just hide the brand, the banner. Let me get rid of the banner here and hide that. Bam. All right, so hopefully this is a little easier to follow, and I'll get rid of that. So we had a bit of run up for PulseChain, and of course PulseChain sacrifice ran 19 days. The first 5 days, of course, with $1 per 10,000 points, and then went up by 1.05 per day after that. And then, of course, the last 3 days we had a flat 1.75 bonus, and of course, on top of the base bonus, a base amount of 10,000, you had the volume multiplier, and of course that was 2.5 was the maximum. That obviously went to the biggest whale as well. And that applied for the first 16 days. So that was kind of the structure and the length of the sacrifice. And of course, we saw the price pump up pretty big, and then it started pulling back during. That took quite a few people off guard, of course. Some people thought that it might actually start rallying up, but of course, people sacrificed in the first couple of days actually did the best. So kind of if you decide what token you're going to sacrifice, you can either switch that in to buy Hex and then sacrifice Hex, or you can just use the token that you had and keep the Hex that you've already got. So you've got some individual choices to make there. That's really up to you. And of course, obviously, the less Hex on the market in the future, the better. That's just the way it goes. But you've got the first couple of days was the best deal, so that's probably going to be the same this time as well. And we could probably reasonably expect with the Origin account came in and sacrificed at the end of the sacrifice period for the 1.75 rate, and then of course dominates the total pulse amount. And we'll probably see that for the PulseSwap as well. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be any different. And of course, it may surprise. Would it come in at the beginning? Well, I don't think it will, because it probably wants to give a fair deal, just like it did back here as well. So it gives you a chance to get the good rates on the front there. I think that's probably Richard will probably keep to that as well. So it'll be interesting to see that play out. Very cool. All right, let me get here and go back to the comments. Got the behind there. Don't forget to get in the chat, folks. Always like the comments in the chat there, so go for gold. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe, like, share, hit the bell, of course. And if you want to join as a channel member, just open those up, of course. We've got Hexkins, PulseKins, and Richard Hart Club, so get in there, help support the channel going forward. All right, so here we are. That's where we are at the moment. And of course, then we had a little spike at the end of the PulseChain, and then we dipped down, and then we had a big ramp up in anticipation of the PulseChain. And of course, Richard had software delays. We had the issue with the London fork. Apparently caused some issues with the syncing, and they had to get solved by developers and stuff like that. So the community came to help out with that. And then of course we shut it around here, and then we got some Hex OGs start selling down, and a lot of people start, once you get in the downward momentum, that's where you end up. So we could probably reasonably see this price here ramp up here, and at the moment we're seeing this price ramp up here at the moment. We're at 21.4 cents on this chart, so we could reasonably see that certainly build up until we get to this point here, which is potentially the start of the sacrifice for PulseSwap. It'll either be here or the dotted line, which is the end of the year. So it'll start anywhere in that period there. Of course, the earlier it starts, to say 27th, for example, then the earlier that that would make feasible for PulseChain to start up. But I've definitely moved PulseChain from the 7th through to the 15th of January now, as the earliest possible date. So it's the earliest, not the latest. The latest, obviously, it all depends on how the reconciliation of PulseSwap happens. So that's what you can do. You can think about that. So you can, that's what we did for PulseChain, is that a lot of people bought Hex and helped push the price up. They got a higher US dollar amount. That's the key, is your US dollar timestamp amount. And that was done every half an hour. Every half an hour that you sacrificed, there was a timestamp, US timestamp for that. And it's kind of the value that went for there. And so you just get that done, and the highest US dollar value is what you're after, really, when sacrificing. Typically, the first couple of days were the best for doing that. I think even day 2, day 3 were pretty good as well. So definitely get that up. I think most of the sacrifice was in day 5, and it was a big jump. You can also see Pulse leads X.XYZ to see that chart with the first couple of days on there. Very nice. Marco says the 40 cents might come true. Says Marcos. I think it will. And D says the most. I'm not even trying to say your name because it's so hard, so loud. I just tongue twisted myself. The most comprehensive Hex TA in the community. Few are doing TA and on chain. Cheers, AD. Most welcome. And Larry says hello from the Bahamas. Good job, hey Lario. And Bahamas, man, that's a beautiful place. So I know that you're having a good time there, Larry. So very, very cool. All right, let's jump on. So there's some of the strategies you can do. Check out. I've already done videos on those, of course, about the sacrifice. You can check that out on the channel. Just go back and check the last couple of videos, and you'll see I've covered those topics. So yeah, that's kind of a look back at the PulseChain and how it's going to be similar, as Richard said. So I do hope it's going to be shorter though, and possibly more simple, and that way the distribution could be done faster. And then of course that would mean PulseChain comes out faster. And like I say, we want this. The minimum viable product is GoHex, Uniswap front end, which is done. PulseSwap bridge and the actual bridge as well, which should have stable coins and and Hex and a few others on it is my guess. Just to start off, obviously a lot of third-party bridges can come into play as well, and I'm sure they will. Yeah, so very cool. The other thing, of course, is what I wanted to say about this was that this is apparently being tested out on PulseChain Testnet 2.0 in a gradual process until we get to the point if everything's running smoothly, especially with the validators. Like I said, we're up to about 8 validators now. I expect a few more in the next coming days. Then we should be in good stead for PulseChain in mid-January, which would be pretty cool to launch at the beginning of 2022. Now, once again, it is software, so we have to be flexible and put the information in as we get there. And yeah, like I say, PulseSwap is probably pretty cool. So you can sacrifice for PulseSwap, and that's going to potentially have a certain amount of X returns. And of course, it's going to be the biggest yield farming in history and on the copy of ETH So the market's going to respond to that pretty bullish. I think there's going to be a lot of flocking in people. You think about a lot of yield farming is happening on Atrium, Kronos, and lots of other chains. That's all going to start swamping into PulseChain. People, those type of crypto investors will flood in as well. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see all that play out, and with all that stuff happening. And then, of course, if you're actually after Pulse from PulseChain because you missed the sacrifice, but you're actually after the Pulse, you could go into the PulseSwap and then sell that down when you get your PulseSwap or whatever the final name is, and you could then trade that for Pulse if you want to play the Pulse game. So you've got to decide what you prefer more. But like I say, some people think that in the short term, maybe PulseSwap will be a better X return than the Pulse. And we're going to check some of that out now. So let's jump over to some of the fundamentals. Here we are, folks, getting in there. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, hit the bell, of course, and let's check out some of the stuff. So we just got a couple of things, just some things to take into account. Obviously, nothing can perfectly predict the future, but here we've got ETH coin, Unicorn, Sushi, BNB, Cake, QuickSwap. So ETH, we had like offer prices around 33 cents. Something like that. Uni was at about 26 cents in the offer prices. Launch price was $2.80, $2.01, $3.65 for Sushi, 11 cents for BNB, Cake 31, and I believe a QuickSwap was around $44.63. I've got that in green. I'm not 100% sure. I do know that was the opening price, so that's one I've got there. So just take that into account. All-time high, $4,878 for ETH. And of course, Uniswap 44.92, and Sushi 23.38. BNB 686 there. I realize I haven't got that formatted, so we might as well format that at the time. Not even sure what that is. You know me, I like to keep that formatted. So 686 and a Cake 43.96 and a QuickSwap 15.90. Now I was there when the price of QuickSwap was at 15.90, so that was pretty fun time at the time. I had quite a bit of QuickSwap then. The offer price, and so it's this price versus the all-time high. ETH was 16,260x, Uni was 173x, Sushi 6x, and which is based on the launch price. So these are all based on the launch prices, these four. And of course, BNB 6,239x, Cake 142x, and QuickSwap 36x from the low launch there as well. Now we've got, I just realized I haven't got these ones either. So let me just hit all those. Bam, I think that was done there, and bam. All right, so we had so Ether price now is 3,871. This is when just before I recorded it, and of course the Uniswap price 15 and Sushi $5.93 is current prices now. BNB 531. 12.90 for Cake and 2.46 for QuickSwap. You can see how far that's come down from here. Obviously, QuickSwap's not quite as popular as it was. Still gets a lot of volume through it, but a lot of the yield farming has moved to some of these new chains. So just take that into account. The LP, I guess the launch price and the price now is 1,383x, 7x, 2x, 4,835x, 42x, and 6x. So you can pretty much safely say, maybe PulseSwap is 10x, and then the actual PulseChain, it could be 10x, could be 100x on that, because if you look at Cake from the launch price, 142x, and Uni's done a 173. So it could be pretty cool if you take the bullish Cake point of view as well, and it's still 42x at the moment from the launch price. So some pretty mad gains there. So 10x to 100x, you could say. It's going to be interesting to see that play out, of course, for the PulseSwap. In terms of PulseChain itself, you could be a couple 100x. You got it could be thousands X, in the price. So that's what we could get up there. BNB was 6,230. So you could get some pretty big X's in the medium long term for the PulseChain, and I think that's deflationary as well as whereas PulseSwap is most likely inflationary. May have some deflationary mechanisms to reduce that, of course, just like you have issues with cake and sushi doing that as well. So some interesting stuff there. Very cool. Now, in terms of PulseChain, so that's possibly some of the possible scenarios around PulseSwap. Although PulseSwap will be, in my view, even bigger. Right, you can have the first system state airdrop of Ethereum. It's going to be Ethereum code layer 1 or superior. And of course, then you're going to have the automatic bot maker. It's going to do wonderful things for the price at the start off the first day, and yeah, it's going to be crazy good. And then, of course, you can have the PulseSwap on top of that as yield farming. So it could be a lot more valuable than 10 to 100x. It could be hundreds of x's. So it's going to be interesting to see that play out, particularly in the short term. It could have some real big boom in there until things settle down. Then Pulse will definitely be, in the medium long term, in my view, the bigger x's, because you're going to have all the projects going on there, new projects, projects that died on Ethereum, reliving on PulseChain, etc., etc. You get the point. And all the yield farming and stuff like that. So everything goes through the Pulse token, and that's really going to be super pumpamental for that. And of course, it's deflationary as well. So pretty cool. So if we look at the PulseChain sacrifice, we had the whales sacrificing somewhere around about the quadruple 04 mark. And of course, the 10x, 10x is here, 20x is a 0008, 30x 0012, 40x 0016, 50x 002, 100x 004, 200x 008, and 300x 1.2 cents. So that's when we get up to that point. 500x 2 cents, 1000x 4 cents, and 10,000x 40 cents, something like that could play out. That's for the whales, of course. They get a much better because they've got a lower rate. They had the multiplier. They get a better deal there, and I think there was possibly around maybe 10 to 15 whale size accounts, and then a lot of sharks after that. So some interesting stuff there. Blau says, if you got cake staked until all-time high, you could 3x your coins. So think more of a 450x, says Blaus. Yeah, good point. Vass says, Tech says, I'm not sure what that is, Naomi. Not sure if that's just promoting us out there. Let me just jump back over to the chat there. Not sure what that is, so we're just going to remove that comment. Bam. All right, so not sure what that one is, and let me go. So Marco says, is there a rough estimate of the total supply of Pulse? Yes, I think from memory it was about, I had this on my thing, I think it was about 250 trillion, I think is the number. And Marco says, is there a rough, yeah, so to answer that one, hashtag 3650 for me. 15 years, just a bit too long. I'm old. Yeah, so 10 years, yeah. So 3641 is the maximum bonus, but 3650 is a classic 10-year number. So nice one there, King Crank. 10 years perfectly good. Now, if obviously you've got a stake, according to your age, unless you're going to leave it for your children, your grandchildren, or something, you can think about that as well. Obviously, you've got to protect your your security and stuff like that. So very cool. So in terms of some of the smaller sacrifices, they got a higher price. Of course, we're looking at 0001. That's this just during the sacrifice phase. It's not in the mercy sacrifice phase. Obviously, the rate went really bad. So at the moment, the rate for $1 is about 7 points per dollar. You got to remember back at the beginning. So let me just pull up the chart here. So if we're here on the 5th, I think was it the 16th now? 15th, yeah, 15th. So we're here on the 15th. This is the current day in PulseChain testnet 2.0. We're currently here in the mercy sacrifice phase. I don't know if many people have been sacrificing recently. Last time I looked at it was a couple of days ago, but the actual sacrifice points per dollar is 7 points. And you got to remember back here it was 10,000 points for a dollar. Now it's 7 points. So 10,000 points to 7 points per dollar is pretty crazy. And of course, here on you also had a multiplier, volume multiplier in addition as well. So take that into account. So here is Murray says, awesome job, man. MNBNE, you in Auckland. Yeah, BNE. I'm not even sure what that is. Is that Blenheim? Is that Blenheim? I'm not sure. Anyway, so there we are, and so the price 0001 is the smaller players on the back end of the sacrifice towards the end. towards the end here as well. And of course, we're working that out. So 10x for them would be 001. So the whales would already be up at 30x, and the small players would be up at 10x. And this is not the mercy sacrifice people. They've got much higher X's to meet. And of course, 50x for a whale would be a 20x for a smaller player. So I think a lot of these whales, though, some of them will, I think, this is speculation, but I think a lot of them will just only sell down a little bit of their portfolio when they reach certain X's, and I think that's probably the count. 100x here is a 40x for a smaller player, and so on. So once they get to 1000x, it's a 400x for a smaller player, and 10,000x versus a 4,000x for the smaller players at the end of the sacrifice 19 days period. So it's going to be interesting to see that play out on the PulseSwap, PulseChain, sorry. But I expect a lot of the whales to really be long-term investors, and so I expect to see quite a bit of that. There's always going to be some that may sell down, but remember the token is deflationary as well, so that also over time will have an impact on value, with 25% of all the transaction pulse being burned. And then, of course, a lot of the total supply is in the origin accounts sacrifice, and then, of course, you have 1% to the Genesis account, and then you have maybe 3 to 6% in the pools for the bot pools to supply that from the Pulse. So there's quite a bit of distribution there. And so once again, it comes down to circulating supply, and that's what's going to be the key. Just like in all these, this is what Richard focuses on, the circulating supply. And I think with the adoption coming from Ethereum, it's going to be massive. People are going to swing over. It's going to take people by storm. I also think that Richard probably got a few little tricks up his sleeve in addition to all the awesome stuff we've seen so far. So I'm looking forward to that from Richard as well. Very nice. We got new things. Yes, awesome. I am still 21, age to be a billionaire. That's right, new thing, absolutely. And yeah, so if you're 21, then 15 years, not a lot of time. And Murray says Brisbane. Hey, Brisbane. Brisbane is a beautiful, is a kind of subtropical city. I've been there once, and it was absolutely. I thought, oh, I could live there. It was really a beautiful place. So big shout out there to Murray, Brisbane. Larry O says, how do you think Hex will perform during crypto winter? Well, this is the whole point, is that we come back to Hart's law and reflexivity, is that, the rest of the market is red. It's a good question you asked, because if we scroll back down here, we've got a little chart here, and this is probably a good guide. Let me just find this out here. Let's go here. So here is an example of the market pulling back, and yet, Hex is green. And obviously, we've got the PulseSwap coming up in PulseChain, but this Hex does this a lot, even when we don't have those big things coming up ahead. And of course, it is 85% is in USDC. So the only downside of being USDC is the fact that if you're making mad gains in USDC and the rest of the market keeps going down, you may sell some of that to buy the rest of the crypto that's now in a red downturn. So imagine if ETH went down to $1,200 and you had your Hex bags kept going up, then you could buy a whole ton of ETH. And so that's the only counter to the Hart's law there, with the fact that it can really be undercorrelated, and then just keep going up, because then it's just the underlying demand for Hex. So that's probably the big play there. And we already saw last year, just during those the initial I don't want to, Kufi period, let me put it that way, last year, that Hex actually moved by itself, in about April. And obviously, the big candle that started that off was the real Hex Godwell, who some say has up to about $2 billion in crypto. Definitely, I've seen, $400 to $600 million worth of that. But apparently, others say that there's a lot more wallets and associated to that very cool real Hex Godwell, which now is on Twitter, apparently, so it's been verified. So pretty cool. All right, so nice on that. Let's jump over to Murray Oz, AUS. I share your videos to my Hex team. So informative. Hey, Murray, I do appreciate that. Big shout out to you and Aussie. Very nice. And Pro Hexa says, good afternoon, Hexkins, Polskins from Turkey. Hey, welcome. It's good to see you. Crypto's really big in Turkey. I think it's one of the biggest adopted users of crypto. So great to see their Pro Hexa as well. And Mancor says, Marcos, says, do you think in 10 years' time that it is possible that Hex will be $1,000 per coin. I'm not in that camp, so I don't think it will be that much, but I do think it's possible. It really just depends on that. Obviously it's going to be a lot less supply, a lot less T-shares around, but I'm definitely confident of a couple $100, but $1,000 I'm not quite sure there. I'm not quite there yet in my head, but definitely I think it could be really valuable. Now the analogy, of course, is Bitcoin, and the fact that we're already ahead of Bitcoin and ETH where they were at originally. But it might be another topic that I'll cover in a separate session, because I'm doing a couple videos around that kind of forward-looking price, and I haven't quite finished that thinking yet. So I'll get back to you on that one, Marcus. But I'm already looking at $10 to $17 for the end of next year. That's kind of where I'm heading at the moment for that. ProHex says, I share a video to my team with Turkish explanation. Hey, nice, ProHexer. I like that. So I appreciate that. Thanks very much there, ProHexer. All right, so looking good here, folks. If you haven't subscribe, like, share, hit the bell. Heading towards 1,500 subscribers, which is pretty exciting. And I think I was at about was it 1,471 before we started the live stream? So if we can get to 1,500, that'd be pretty cool. And yeah, very cool. Don't forget to subscribe. Woohoo! All right. So there is some of the cool stuff. And I think this is pretty interesting to see this play out. Once again, I do think the whales will be more stickier than the retail lot here. And so definitely something to think about with the exits there. You can always pause this video and check through some of these numbers as well. You can always double check them. A lot of the numbers are from CoinGecko if you want to check that out. Obviously, with the Hexkins, we're almost down to pretty much how to pulse index list, because just about everyone else misreports the Hex market cap and stuff. So, but we don't want to get into all those dramas. Hex is going to do its own thing. It's going to power regardless of what others say and do. It is just growing and growing day after day after day. Like today, we had 600, I think it was 611 new wallets today growth. So, and that's nothing. I think that 2022 we're going to see a mass adoption with Hex. We're going to have to see big whales, and mass retail adoption is going to start ramping up through 2022. It's going to be pretty exciting. PulseChain is going to be a wonderful platform for Hex to flourish on, and of course, PulseChain itself is going to become its own its energy, its own thing. So we won't be talking about Hex. We're talking about PulseChain. We're talking about PulseSwap. We're talking about a lot of the new projects going on there. Now, I am interested in Pulse loans, but once again, I'm super confident to back Richard Hart's projects, but I would have to really see the contracts and the operations of those kind of projects at the moment. We do know that there's some already on Binance Smart Chain and stuff like that. Those ones are kind of sort of, they're entertaining, but really, why would you do that? Why would you just stick with Richard Hart's projects and then just stay with those and be comfortable that you're in something with potentially the best fundamentals ever? So I think that's the biggest airdrop in history, the biggest yield farming history, and of course that the airdrop means that you can get to the yield farming and start doing that with free tokens pretty much, and start earning those sweet yields and incomes. Man, oh man, life-changing stuff. Really is really cool. Now, there's a topic of impermanent losses, of course, but if you're getting a lot of stuff free, and especially if you've got the Hex, maybe X, P-Hex, E-Hex pairs, then you should be perfectly fine. You probably won't even suffer any of that. In fact, you get impermanent gains. So definitely with yield farming, with the airdrops, it makes it completely different from when you put your own capital in from somewhere else and you potentially face permanent losses, but obviously permanent gains as well if things play out in your favor. So something to think about there. Very cool. All right, let's get into the chat here. We've got Benny says, you are the best content creator in the EXX by far. Hey, thanks, Benny. Appreciate that. What is your Twitter handle? I haven't got Twitter, but I'm going to get one. I have been asked for that a couple of times. I just haven't quite got around to setting it up. We have to start promoting you more. Thanks for your work. Hey, Benny, I appreciate that. Big shout out to you. Matt says, hey, mate. Hey, Matt, good to see you. And I think I've seen you around somewhere else, Matt. So I'll have to double check that. Dr. Sergio, how much we should go into Pulse Sacrifice in percent, PulseSwap Sacrifice in percent. So obviously don't do investment advice on the channel. YouTubers really shouldn't be doing that, not financial advisors. Most of the stuff we do is infotainment. Trying to bring info and insights to you is probably the best thing it can do. But let me put it in another way. Even a few $100s, if you had invested that in Hex, would have changed your life. you know, when you're talking 10, 20,000 X returns when Hex reached about 50 cents. So you can imagine even a couple $100 would be life-changing. So let me leave that thought with you, and I think that's probably where I'll leave it there, Dr. Sergio. Hopefully that helps. And Brownie says, would love to see a 1080p live stream. Yeah, so the thing with YouTube, it doesn't actually update as well. The video doesn't update till like 8 or 10 hours afterwards. So sometimes the quality can be a little struggle until the YouTube's finished rendering that up. So just take that into account there. Brownie, but appreciate that. Matt Nichols says, why do you think people will hold onto eHex after Pulse and PHEX comes out, apart from already being long-term staked? So the reason why I say that is because, you know, Kinetics from Hex Scale, which is the current, you know, placeholder name, has said that he's keen to buy up a lot of eHex while people are buying PHEX up. And so I do think that a lot of whales will possibly buy a lot of eHex. And so that's why I think, and of course it's still on the original ETH chain. So even though PulseChain is going to be out of this world amazing, it's still on the ETH chain. So it still has, you know, a lot of that stuff happening. And I think that, you know, PulseChain is a bit of a vampire attack on not just, and PulseSwap too, on the ETH chain. It will help ETH chain to reduce the demand of it, but obviously it's going to take a lot of people and a lot of projects that are pretty much, there's so many good projects on ETH chain that died because of the ETH fees, and they'll be, you know, rise like a phoenix on the PulseChain. So it's going to be interesting to see that. I think we'll see a lot of news like that coming out in the first couple of months. We see all these projects jumping on there. So it's going to be interesting. The only question I have about PulseChain is the gas fees. Is if there's a lot of bot attacks. So recently on Polygon, they had to lift the GUI from about 1 GUI to 30 GUI to try and limit the amount of bot attacks on the system using the GUI. So that's probably the only issue that I have, but I'm sure Richard probably has a workaround for that. So we'll wait to hear about that. Crypto by Night says, I meant to be doing dishes. Instead, I'm meant to be doing dishes, says Crypto by Night. Instead, I'm outside drinking beer, streaming your most excellent video. Keep up the great work. Hey, I wish I could have a beer. That'd be pretty nice. Actually, you're making me think about that. I don't drink a lot of alcohol, but I do like a nice cold beer now and then. New Thing says, thanks, man. Another best TA. Hey, New Thing, appreciate that. Let me just jump back to the price because the price is moving up. We're already up at 21.5, 21.7 cents, and that's pretty amazing. So very cool. And New Thing says, cover all stuff. Hey, that's right. So there's so much good stuff happening. I want to bring as much good content around this as we can. Because that's pretty important. So Troy says, cheers for the stream. Hey, you're most welcome. I'm not even sure. I think we're up at 1 hour and 5 minutes. So you know how we roll. I'll probably go for 1 hour and 20 minutes, so another 15 minutes. And that seems about a good time period. Dr. says, I miss PulseChain Sacrifice. Is it still meaningful to buy some after the release? So yes. So the answer to that would be that you. What happens is that I've got to get the right side because it's opposite on the screen. Is that, you know, the price will go up really high and it will come back down, and then it will. When it comes back down, that's the time when you might want to pick up some cool opportunities, and then it will start rising over time is the way that it typically happens, and I think that will still apply the PulseChain. Yeah, so PulseChain getting Pulse, so you can do that. The other thing, of course, is you can sacrifice into PulseSwap and then try and get a big X on that in the short term and then buy Pulse with it is another strategy. But once again, no one knows the future. We're just making probability bets there or guesstimates as well, so take that into account. King Crank says, I've got to go. Great new content subbed. Hey, King Crank, appreciate that sub. Heading towards 1,500, hopefully, and I do appreciate that. I'll catch you on another live stream there, King Crank. Have a great time. And Rune Skies is in the house. Now, Rune Skies is everywhere. I've seen you everywhere, Rune Skies. Big shout out to you. You are truly a Hexkin, Pulsekin for sure. Wouldn't eHex price will be the same as PHEX? Wouldn't Hex on Matic work as a good example to that? Yeah, well, Hex on Matic isn't always exactly the same price. It actually either leads or lags the eHex price because I've traded quite a bit in that pool. There isn't actually that much Hex in that pool. The last time I checked, there were 4 pairs and there was about 250 to 300,000 Hex on there, and it does lead lag. It's pretty close, but it does lead lag. Sometimes you can see a bit of difference there. The other thing, of course, is that like I said, you've got Kinetics has already said with the Hex scale, which is going to potentially bring in millions and millions of dollars first privately, and then once it publicly lists, possibly on the Nasdaq, something like that, bring in IRAs and institutions that that he's keen on eHex. He was keen on eHex. So if you check out the Kinetics interview with Richard Hart that just came out yesterday, I think I put that in a link in yesterday's video. You can either look for that link or go into YouTube and check it out on Discourse Syndicate, I believe it was. You can check that out. But he was talking about buying eHex, and so that's going to be a significant whale buyer, Hex scale. So that's one of the big fundamentals. So if he's interested in eHex, then that may. I think at first PHEX will probably be at a premium versus eHex, but then I think maybe 2 months later we could see some convergence, especially if there's buyers around like Hex scale / Kinetics, which is just a placeholder name, just like PulseSwap is the placeholder name for the yield farming. So take that into account. Yeah. Research, yes, thank you, brother. Yeah, you're most welcome. And Marsh is back again. I'm gonna have to say something about that mask. Can't have any of that stuff. I'm not sure what that is. I'm going to remove that, but if I see another post like that, I'm going to have to delete it. Can't have any spam in the chat there. Come on, Marsh, you can do better than that. All right, very, very cool. All right, so we'll jump back here and going good. So yeah, another 9 minutes, so we're 10 minutes here. Let's take away all the diagrams. Let's just enjoy the price for the last 10 minutes. Let me know if you've got any more questions in the chat there. Once again, I've got a lot of videos on the channel covering different topics around PulseChain, PulseSwap, the validators and stuff like that. So do check that out if that's something of interest to you as well. Yeah, very cool. Oh, look at this. It's beautiful. Looking great. Looking fantastic on the price here. And as we put back the actual details, we have got not that many days left until we get there. So, if I'm right about the 27th, that's only 11 days away. Typically, a week in crypto is quite a short time. So if we had a week, so we've still got a longish time, but the market's already shown that it's pretty keen to move up. As people buy as well. There doesn't seem to be as many sellers, and that's a positive too. So we saw that on the DMI. Let's pull that up again on the DMI. So we saw that the buyers are outdoing the sellers now. That's very, very cool. So that's positive, right? And look at these stats. Look at everything's looking so good. I love it. I love it. It's a beautiful thing to watch. And hey, we've just been down through this. Was it number 9 pullback? I think it's number 9. And so it's good to see us move back up and see us above the long-term linear average there as well, or support line. It's great to be back above that. So another green candle above that, pretty nice. Head up towards the 28 cents. Once we're past that, man, oh man, then there's not too much stopping us. 32 cents, and then onwards up to tackle that all-time high. We could see some pretty big candles here. And like I say, a lot of the big money hasn't even come in yet. A lot of the big money has not even come in. So we'll watch out for that. It's going to be pretty cool. Dr. Sergio says, we will see, eh? Says Dr. Sergio, yeah. And Dr. says, fall down again to 10 cents. Yeah, I think the chances of that are pretty remote now. Yesterday, I think I said that I had a like 10% chance. I think that's down to like 5% now. I think that because once we moved into this area here, across this downward support would have been suppressing us, and above the long-term line and above the 200 moving average, and with all the TA looking supportive, I don't think 10 cents is no longer in play now. Once again, if you want to use matcher or 1 inch, you can put in an order there to see whether there's any spike down. The only exception to this would be some massive OG deciding to sell down millions and millions and millions of hex. That's the only thing that's going to pull this down, in my view. But once again, what do you think the price of PHEX T-shares will be worth on launch? Well, I think they're going to be relatively the same as EHEX with the adjustment. What do you think? Yeah. All right. So cool. What's the price of that now? It's about 19,000, almost 9,700, I think it is. So is that the price of T-shares? Yeah, that's right. So yeah, then of course it's going to separate. It's going to fork off. It's going to fork off. All the economic decisions that people make will impact the contract for PHEX in terms of T-shares, and it will start separating off. So it's going to be interesting to see that play out. All right. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch the two separate. Actually, that's a really good point there, Brownie. Very good point. So very cool. Here we are, moving on up. Man, I love it. Let's just pull out the. We're going to go to. Let me pull that back again, and we're going to go to the hourly here. Let's go back down here. Now let's get the old ruler back out, and of course here was our move up. It was about 43%, pretty mad, and that was in 19 hours. Love it. That's so good. And of course we pull back about 12%, and now we're up. We're up now to a new high. We've made a new high, up 16%, and we've got a new high. So our previous high there, we already breached that. So onwards and upwards, onwards and upwards. And as I say, if we go back to the daily one, we really want to breach out. That that next support line, which is what have I had it here? Yeah, there's 25 cents and then break through. So we'll get in the 25 to 28 cent mark. Very cool. Get up to there. And then maybe the next day we can power up over the 28 cents and then it's up and away. And yeah, watch that portfolio. It's going to go crazy. But we've got nice volume candles. We could get quite a couple of days of volume candles would be pretty nice. We can see when we're back up here, we got some pretty huge volume candles in here. We actually had quite a few relatively smaller ones. Then we've got some big ones here moving up. So we can see that too. Once obviously we do have X coming on the 17th, coming out of the stakes there on the 17th, so that is a technical hurdle. So depending on what they do, obviously the wise thing would be to keep it and stake it for. I'm going to just refresh this because I've lost my timeline on the chart there. Rune Sky says I got one WRT and the admin bot. I'm asking this question everywhere, but still a bit fuzzy on it. Once PLS launches, the AMM fixer bot goes and fixes the ratios. That's correct. Would that reward the LP with PLS? That's right. So people will get PLS and they'll be able to buy back their tokens. Is the way I understand that, Rune Skies. Dr. Search says, is there a difference between staking PHEX and EHEX? Well, there will be after the fork happens, after they start up together. They're going to start differentiating because people will make different decisions on both chains. So the T-share rate will change, relatively speaking, from when it forks off, and everything else in it will too. The returns, the hex per T-share, that's all going to be different on PulseChain versus ETH hex. So yeah, definitely. Rune Sky says, sorry, RWRT equals with regards to, oh, right, with regards to, yeah, I wasn't quite sure of that one. With regards to, couldn't fit the whole question in one comment. It's very academic of you there, Rune Skies. I like it. I like it. All right, so here was I going? I was going back in here. Hopefully I've got the time frame in here now. Yep, let me just post that now. What was I going to be doing here? I forgot what I was going to be doing in here now. What was I doing in here that I was going to be doing? Was I looking at the volume? I think I was. I can't remember now. I'll just mind blank now since you got this little distracted with those comments there. But yeah, definitely. That's going to be part of the fascinating thing, right? Is seeing the T-share rates, the hex per T-share payouts diverge on both chains. And that will be affected by the supply and demand, the staking, and all that good stuff. So it's really quite fascinating. And then, of course, the value over time. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I am very bullish on both chains. And I'm very bullish on the fact that that you'll see a lot of retail investors, because it's super cheap, super fast on PulseChain. They'll be going there. They'll be flocking there. But I still think that the opportunity on the ETH chain is the big players. So we'll see how that plays out over time, because basically all the big players now on ETH are going to get a copy on PHEX. So you can see how there's kind of incentive there as well. So and if EHEX is running at a discount for the big players, the discounts may come into EHEX and buy that up. Does that make sense? That's why I think Kinetics is kind of thinking in that way. And of course, they want to get it as cheap as they can, because if they're getting their investors the cheapest HEX, and the HEX just goes up over the next 5, 10 to 15, keeps going up over the time period, just like Bitcoin has, then their trusts will look amazing. It will be out of this world. And of course, people in the trust, they have shares, so they can trade in and out of the trust, even though the Hex is actually staked for 15 years out at a time. So they'll have that rolling too as money comes into the trust. They'll be rolling out further in the future. So it's massive fundamentals, man. So really crazy stuff. So very cool. How are we doing there? Coming up almost down an hour 20, so we're doing pretty nice here. The Hex against, what's the current Hex supply? So last time I checked, it was about 630. Let me pull that up actually. Hex daily stats, and we'll pull that up. Let's scroll over here. Yeah, so 637 billion Hex is total supply, but most of that's in the Origin wallet. Some people say somewhere between 88, probably about 88% is in the Hex wallet. Maybe 90. It used to be 90, but maybe 88. Obviously, there's a certain amount sacrificed for PulseChain, but that's the total supply there. And of course, the minted inflation is deferred. So we have 3.69% inflation, and then of course we have about 37% returns for the staking class, which is about 10% of that. And a lot of that stuff's all deferred out, right? Because we have like 5.9 year average stake period. So a lot of the, even all that inflation, that 3.69, that 37% return is into the future. So if you're going to stake a year in Hex, you're going to get about 12% returns, right? So a lot of the inflation is actually delayed well into the future, and by that time you're going to have, you're going to have retail growth, virality. You're going to have more whales into the space, and that's how you get the higher prices offsetting the inflation over time. So that's pretty much the logic there. Pretty cool. All right, an hour and 20 minutes. That's pretty cool. That's the second live stream, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'm going to bring some more content again to the next live stream, and some more different insights. Going to be pretty cool. D Hexkin says, I sort of mean what's currently only the market. The circulating supply. The circulating supply. Oh, I guess it's best to work out what the circulating supply or the actual amount of Hex on there. The amount of Hex on there at the moment is. That's in the pools there is, well, at the end of today was about 141 million there. So that's how much was in the actual DEXs there. Obviously excludes the smaller amounts on the centralized exchanges as well. So pretty cool. Now the circulating supply is probably somewhere between, probably around about 4% if you adjust this for the Origin account. Solely around that 4% mark. I am actually going to try and do a reconciliation of that. But typically the best numbers come from Gunther, the accountant. So I have to get the latest spreadsheet on that to try and make it as accurate as possible. Have to adjust that for the PulseChain sacrifice, of course, and to try and get a good estimate. It's only going to be an estimate, but I'm thinking for, around that 4%, maybe just above 4% mark is where I'm thinking it is at the moment. So hopefully those answers your questions there. DCS, cheers, mate. Great work. Hey, you're most welcome. Dexter, you think the trust will buy it all? If so, up and away. Well, the trust is going to continue to buy everything. All its funds will go into buy Hex. But I think that's just going to be one of the many big whales out there. And like I say, we've got Kiyosaki hanging around on as Brown, and particularly if he gets in, his friends will get in. They're all billionaires, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars. And you've got more. You've got Three Arrows. You got Overwatch. You got lots of players out there entering this fray. And of course, I think many of them will just to see PulseChain for what it is, a huge opportunity. So pretty cool. Andrew says, hey from Wollongong. Hey, I love Wollongong. Can't believe I've made a live stream. You're a legend. Hey, Andrew, appreciate that. Unfortunately, Andrew, I'm just finishing it up, just wrapping it up. So, and you will have to go back on the record. But I will be doing probably another live stream tomorrow. I am actually enjoying them. So I probably, if you enjoy it, you might as well do it, right? So this is my favorite topic, Hex, PulseChain, and PulseSwap. I love Richard Hart projects for sure. So pretty exciting. All right, I'm going to finish off there. Don't forget, subscribe, like, share, hit the bell. And if you want to become a member of this channel, of course, just open those up the other day. Then we've got PulseSkins, Hexkins, and the Richard Hart Club. Those are 3 membership types. Help support this channel going forward. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I will do my very best to bring you the latest and greatest of insights. Andrew says, awesome, I'll tune in. Hey, appreciate that. And Brownie says, I second that. Freaking awesome show. Hey, Brownie, do appreciate that. Big shout out to all of you guys. Enjoy yourself. The chart is pretty wonderful. Let me finish on the chart there. There we are, 21.6 cents. loving it too. I'm going to keep watching it through the night probably as well. All right, bye for now. Let me end up here. Very cool.